Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of August 19th, 2013. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one. But I need your question if I'm going to answer it. Man, I'm messing it up today. The address to send that to is webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There is no such thing as a stupid question, and it is the best way to get the most out of the site. This is one of the ones I had to record a little bit in advance because my wife is pregnant and due soon. So here we go. So it's not going to be really all that much up to the minute news in the next couple of video mails, but maybe you don't enjoy that anyway. I did want to fill up just a little time telling you about the referral program and the affiliate program. If you don't know, both of these are free to use, and they are very, very, very simple to set up and take advantage of. First thing is the referral program. If you refer a friend, there is a spot. I'm not sure if you saw it when you signed up, but it says your referrer, so whoever referred you, okay? And if you put somebody's exact username into that field when you sign up, they are credited with free time. And now you can do that too, because you'll remember. So all you have to do is tell your friends about the site, tell them to sign up for the free trial. Even if they sign up for the free trial, you get time added to your subscription here on KennyRoy.com. It's that easy. Just have them put in your exact username into the refer panel or refer field in the sign up page, and it'll automatically add it when they sign up. Pretty cool, right? Then now the affiliate program. What the affiliate program is if anyone signs up using your affiliate ID. So all you have to do is sign up for the affiliate program. It takes about 5 seconds to sign up for that, and you will get a link. If you put that link on your blog, or you put that link on Facebook, or you put that link anywhere and someone clicks on your link, if they sign up on KennyRoy.com and for a paid subscription, you will actually get an affiliate commission on their subscription. Pretty cool, right? And if they buy anything out of the store, you will also get an affiliate commission. So it's a great way to just kind of like subsidize your learning here on KennyRoy.com. Maybe get your subscription for free if you get all your friends to sign up with your affiliate ID. So for all those programs, just look over here on the right menu. Hopefully when you signed up on KennyRoy.com, you clicked on every single one of those and saw what they did. But at any rate, if you look at the affiliate program, you can get more information about that, okay? So I just want to tell you guys about those because I have something like 400 members between the subscriptions and the forums, and there's about 25 affiliates. So that doesn't make much sense, does it? Especially when it can be such a cool program for you guys. So anyway, that's enough about that. Let's get to the question. I love it. Here it is. Oh, very cool. So animation layers, the interesting thing about animation layers is they kind of are an advent of the layered approach, sort of as brought on by technical animators, and how we sort of identified that we can build performances out of components. Now, there was never a layered approach. Really, there was never a layered approach in traditional animation. You had straight ahead or pose to pose, and what pose to pose was, we all know, is when you came up with your key poses, your key frames, and then you drew your key frames, and then you in between them and time them and space them, and then you had animation, right? Straight ahead was when you kind of felt that there was something that needed to kind of be like worked out on a frame by frame basis. So you drew each frame sequentially, one after another, and that would be something like, you know, like a really kind of like by the book, detailed like overlap. If someone, you know, goes like that, you'd probably animate that straight ahead. You wouldn't draw a full body kind of like pose to do just that little overlap, right? So move on to 3D, and then we realize that we get a lot of motion kind of for free. Like when we grab the hips and move them, the torso comes along. So what animators, a lot of great animators, in fact, Michael, I never know how to say his last name, Markovitz, loves to give demos on his work at Pixar, using the layered approach. And what it basically depends on is that we get a lot of movement for free. If you grab a large controller in the hierarchy, then everything else is kind of like taken for a ride. All right? What that allows you to do is kind of build a performance in layers. Basically, the big motion is the base layer. I'm doing like a one step, right? And then as you travel kind of up the hierarchy, or sorry, down the hierarchy, really, actually, then you can add more motion on top of, so a layer on top of what you've already built. So you might take your hips and you might go like this, and then you might put some motion into the torso where you have a little bit of like that, but you're keeping the head and neck and arms still, right? So this is what you have now. Okay, then you add to the neck and head. Okay, and then you add the arms into it. Okay, so that's the layered approach. All right, starting with the biggest and then adding layer upon layer of animation on top of the motion that you've already built so far. Now, why this is important to discuss when artists wants to use animation layers, but they can't actually use the tool. Well, I think it's important to go over what the layered approach actually is and why animation layers takes it one step further. So what animation layers really does is it makes it so that you don't have to make destructive choices or choices, sorry, rather, that are permanent to the rest of the animation on any one of the layers that you're building in the layered approach. Meaning this, meaning if you have like a step, all right, and you don't know if your character needs to look left or right, you have no idea, you can just do the normal just overlap on the head, and then when the director comes by and lets you know, like a day later, if they're supposed to look left or right, then you can add a new layer. And in that animation layer, only thing that's happening is the character looks right, like that. And if you add this to this, then you get this, right? So then you have the shot that you wanted. Now, if the character needs to look, instead of this way, then all you do is you change this animation to this. And it doesn't destroy what you've already done. See, if you have all of that just in keys and in the graph editor, then it gets destroyed, doesn't it? Right? Because you have your character stepping, and if you had this all on one layer, then you had all these keys, key, to make this work. So you lose that overlap that you had on the neck, turning the head the other way, all right? So, in order to get it, if you can't actually use animation layers, then there's literally one thing that you can do that makes it so that you can actually do non-destructive changes to your animation, okay? And it involves changing the hierarchy of the rig, which I imagine you're not actually able to do in your studio, okay? The only other way to do it is to use the layered approach in animating and make absolutely sure that as you're doing your animation, you're not actually skipping any of the points in the hierarchy, okay? You're not making him turn left before you put that overlap in, for instance. Okay? That's the only way to do it. But let me show you, if you are able to change the hierarchy, or if you just want to start thinking about how it works, then we can talk about that. So let's take a look here. Okay, so in How to Cheat in Maya, we actually have a section about multiple pivot points. So let me just show you kind of what that means. Okay, so you have a pivot point right here, and this is how your sphere rotates around, right? And you can change that pivot point by holding down D and moving it, right? So now if I rotate it, it rotates from this side. Basically what you can do, I just created a group, and this group has a pivot point out here. If I group it again and move this pivot point out here, now I have a simple hierarchy that allows me to rotate this sphere. So if I want the sphere to rotate from this side, then I can do it like that. If I want the sphere to rotate from this side, I just step down the hierarchy and I moved it like that. Now, one of the issues with this is that you have to have the sphere back in place before you rotate it from this side. So you have to know the order that you'll need those rotations, right? So if I rotate it up here and then I rotate it up here, that doesn't look good. So you kind of have to know how does it need to look. An example of how this might actually be used is if you have a box and the box needs to like roll down the hill or something like that. You'd probably create a pivot point right here, group it, create a pivot point after we, so if we animate it so that it rotates, boom, and hits right here, roughly 90 degrees. Let me just do 90 degrees, just type it in, simpler. Okay, group it, move this pivot point to right here, set a key, rotate this -90 degrees, okay, set a key, group it, move the pivot point right here again, seeing the pattern here, rotate it -90 degrees, okay. Now we have the sphere that is basically, or sphere, this is a cube that's rotating down. So we're using the hierarchy to that extra hierarchy to actually get motion that's not available in the rig, okay, right? Because we're creating those groups. Now that's what I was talking about in terms of actually, getting extra motion. So I'm going to open up actually the walk cycle that we used in the last Ask Videomail to show you what I mean. All right. So assuming you did this using the layered approach, where you were moving the hips. All right, and then you added some to the spine and the neck and the head, and the arms started swinging. Actually, you got the feet working with the hips actually, right? But assuming you did the layered approach, and I think we do the layered approach, pretty much all of us with a walk cycle. This is why I chose it, okay? But you can do a layered approach. I had a shot on Kong that had all these bugs, and they had so many legs that it would have been impossible to do pose to pose. So what I just did was I just took their root controllers and I moved them up the wall and then down and over the rock and whatever. And literally I had my, legs hidden for like 3/4 of the time I worked on this shot. Basically all that really impacted the strength of the shot was how the character looked like it was moving and approaching and all that. The legs is kind of just like filler, especially because there's so many of them. So once I got it really feeling cool, then I just put the legs in and they reached out and they moved them all over the place. It worked great. So so that was a lot of layered approach, and you'll find you do that a lot. Normally with the acting stuff though, you do a lot more pose. But at any rate, if you have the layered approach, I'm assuming you did with a shot like this, then and you want some extra motion, okay? If you look here, he's got a little bit of overlap on his head, just a little bit though. Let me amp it up, just so that we can see it a little bit better, okay? I do believe it's rotate X. Is it? Yeah. He's nodding. Yes, it is, Kenny. Rotate X. Okay. So I just amped it up a little bit. Okay. All right. Now, if we want to have just a little bit of motion here on top of this, then the only thing we can do is create a group. Now, this is an imported rig, and I'm assuming that you can't do this in production. Okay, really the reason they created, I guess a simple answer for your question is Is there a way to really actually use the function of animation layers without using animation layers? The answer is no. That's why they made them, is because you can't actually access that kind of functionality without. There might be some scripts though. Maybe you should look into some scripts. Maybe some scripts would give you that functionality without having to be baked in. Maybe. And pipeline tools. Yeah, I'm wondering if you would want to use animation layers and bake it anyway. Anyway, I'm sure there's maybe a technical. I'm sure there's maybe. There may be a technical workaround for your problem. But at any rate, so I'm just going to grab this head. I'm going to group it. Okay. And now I have a group, and if I want to see where that group is, I got to look in the outliner. Okay, here's that group. All right, and now I can add something on top of this that's non-destructive. Right, so he's walking, and between frame 30 and 40, I'm going to have him turn his head this way. Okay. All right, and then maybe turn it back between 100 and 110. In fact, I'm just going to turn off rotations, do it a little bit more on an arc. Let's do it on an arc here too. We love arcs. Let's have the head lead the eyes a little bit. I mean, the eyes lead the head instead. Okay. So now I just did that, and if we watch, we just created that sort of non-destructive functionality. But I mean, really, it doesn't have the added benefit of being able to be sort of explicitly added on top of any animation, whereas animation layers are explicitly able to do that. So here's kind of my advice. If you guys are doing a lot of animation that lends itself to this, in other words, if you're doing, let's say you find you're doing, I'm not sure what you're working on. Let's say it's episodic work, where there's always characters kind of like sitting on let's say it's like Dinosaur Train. There's always characters sitting on a train. So there's like cycles where they're sitting and it kind of like is like bumping and jostling and whatever. You might want to consider creating a rig that has controls that are like in groups above all of the actual animation controls. And what you can pipe onto those controls are all of your like cycles. So for instance, you might have like your leg controls, or let's say like your spine controls, and you can grab those and whatever. But if you go into the outliner, there's like a spine control cycle group. And on that spine control cycle group is where you copy all your animation things like, like jostling, when they're sitting there like on the train or whatever. And then all the characters, then you can copy that and paste it onto all the characters. So the train looks like it's actually moving because all the characters are kind of bumping at the same time, right? But then on top of that, then you just go back into your panel and you grab your actual animation controls, your performance stuff, and on top of like the little bit of bumps and whatever that's happening, on top of that, you can add your performance where the character turns and starts explaining something, and like even when there's like a little bump, in the train, like they keep on moving. So this is kind of like a conversation. If you don't have access to the actual animation layers, you actually build layers into a rig by creating those layers of control. And that's the best we can do. That's the best I can do for you, okay? Give that a shot though. It's actually kind of fun to do that little box thing that I did, and it just works. It's kind of fun to just like see it work. And if you have a shot that has you know, has an imported rig or is sort of like a one-off and whatever, it's a good skill to know as an animator to be able to create multiple pivot points and just kind of get around that weird problem that we have sometimes of not being able to control something, you know, from the place that we want to. It's all good practice. It'll make you a better animator, more hireable, better on the job, that kind of stuff. What a great question. I really enjoyed answering it. Please send more questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' work. Good luck with your animation. And as always, rock on.